Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Shashwat. And thank you for all of you to be here on a Friday evening in some parts of the country. It's holiday and nice to see about 30 of you or so there. Thank you for that. Let's get started. As always, I changed the title a little bit. I think what's important in innovation is the bottom line of an organization is also critical. So we'll talk a little bit about that today so we get an understanding. I'll just turn my video off so we get better bandwidth. Um, okay, so as always, I like you to spend some time writing down what you hope to learn or expect to gain from today's session. Take 30 seconds and please write it down. You don't have to share it with anyone. It's just for you, for your own information. Okay, great. So let's get started. What is the bottom line? Bottom line is basically the net income, net earning, or earning per share. Any action that makes it increase or decrease the net sharing or company's overall profit. That is how you get your bottom line. It's in and what comes out. So that's important. Improving one's bottom line can happen by growing its net earnings or reducing its cost. So these are a couple of ways you can make it better. The definition by Investopedia says the reference to bottom line refers to the net income figure on a company's income statement. It is almost the last line at the bottom of the page. It reflects the fact whether you're doing well or not doing well, and there's nothing left to subtract. This stands in contrast to revenue, which is the top line. And often having a huge top line doesn't mean you're going to have a huge bottom line. So companies need to focus on their bottom line as well. As we already said, two ways to do that. One is to increase your revenue, and other is to increase efficiency. So I just want you to know what bottom line is before we get into it. Now, innovation, a very overused word, probably misused and possibly misunderstood by most people. And the I on innovation is very irritating. It's very irresistible, but above all, it's interesting. Now, what is innovation all about? Innovation happens when you create value, and the value is created by people. And this is a very simple definition I came up maybe 20 years ago. It's as long as you create value, who creates that value? People. So people create value. So that's how innovation takes place. So now looking at innovation here, it can be new products, new methods, new production, new source of suppliers, can, can be great importance for sustaining competitive advantage. Besides new products, new models now. Most often it's not new products now, it's new marketplace, new market models, new collaboration, opening up new markets. All this is now taking place. It's not necessarily it needs to be a new product or a new service. It can be a new business model, it can be a new market. All this creates innovation. Now, what's the difference between invention and innovation? Okay, invention is something new, but not necessarily with commercial value or not needed. So, for example, many molecules come under this. Unless you find the molecules, you cannot use those molecules to make it an innovation. So here you spend a whole lot of money and you invent. And innovation is not necessarily new, but it has been applied to have commercial value or is needed. And it converts to money or value, not necessarily money, but value. Now, we do things in three ways. The three types of projects. You manage the presence, which is a linear change, and you selectively forget the past, and that's called a non-linear change. And then you create the future. And this is where innovation lies. You do your normal things, you take out things which are not working, and then you create new future. How do you do this? you need to have a process. You first of all need to have a thinking process. How do you think? You need to teach people thinking processes, how they will think. And then you need to have the capability to do these things. And then you have to have a matrix. And then you need resources, a process for innovation. Now, the most value differentiator often people think is cutting cost and selling more, but it's not. Research found that companies which are making money were the ones who were innovative. That's why you talk about people like Amazon, yeah, Google, Apple, and so on. They are very, very innovative. They spend lots of money in innovation. So that's where they kept on becoming more valuable companies. As you know, they are some of the most valuable companies out there. Innovation can be compared to mountain climbing. You spend 99% of the time expiration, and 1% is inspiration, like Thomas Edison said. Coming down, nobody cares, but there's a lot of danger coming down the Mount Everest. But nobody ever talks about people coming down dying. People focus on the top. So innovation is equal to mountain climbing. They only talk about it when it happens. It doesn't happen, they don't talk about it. You have four types of innovation. One is product, which is what most people are working on. It's very often neglected. It's probably processes, strategy, the people, and the three different types of the three levels of innovation. One is called incremental, which is just little by little it changes. Radical is a huge difference, and breakthrough is completely different from what exists. So these are three levels. Many years ago, when I started work in this area, people did not talk about three areas. They would only say incremental innovation, radical stroke breakthrough, but now both have been split into three. And this slide was made well ahead in two at that time, and no one was talking about three levels. Now, innovation is a discipline. You need to approach it as a discipline. It has to be approached comprehensively. It has to be organized, systematic, and you need to look continuously for new opportunities. And you got to involve everybody into the system. So everyone feels part of it. Then you're successful. And then innovation must be customer focused. What is the end of the day you're looking for? You're looking for people using your products. So it needs to be customer focused. Continuing on this discipline. I know we spoke about these last time, but it's important to relook at them. And innovation, invention as discipline, we continue. Its difference between creativity and innovation needs to be very clear. Many companies send people to facilitated brainstorming. They come back, they do nothing. They have a great time. It's a great way of building teams, but it's a poor way of doing invention or innovation, both. People come back, lots of ideas, but nothing gets implemented. So we at British Telecoms used to lock people up over a weekend and say, all right, this is the theme we have. Let's write a few patents. We would have a patent attorney there. We would have a drafter. Everything would be done. We would start probably on a Friday and finish on a Sunday. And we would, with about 10 to 12 people in the room, and we would draft for submission, probably at 20 patents at a time. And this is something British Telecoms did extremely well. They would do it once a quarter to get about 100 patents for the year. And it became important at BT because everyone who created a patent, filed one, got a bonus. And if it got granted, they got a huge amount of money. So everybody used to do that. So after some times, BT said only 100 the centers can do. So it became very competitive and people would start really working for it to get those rewards, which was tied to this. So companies will say they have too many ideas, but will not have in place ways to separate the winners and losers. This is what happens to most organizations. Ideas which bring great value to customers also improve your bottom line, which we spoke about earlier. You need to have skill, knowledge, commitment from the people in your own organization. You need to teach innovation so people can understand how their ideas can be aligned to the company goals and the bottom line. If these ideas are not company goals and bottom line, then it makes no sense. Just like anything else, we get better by practicing and making mistakes. Now, relationship between creativity and innovation. Of course, they are sort of they're interlinked, but they're not the same. Creativity is the input. This you do by ideas, daydreaming, observing, brainstorming, and then you have a screening process in place. And this is where many organizations are lacking. And these will then bring out innovations, which give you better products, services, strategy, human resources, we said just now, faster, cheaper, and better looking material. This is what innovation would do. Now, in a review by Clayton Christensen, one of the leading professors of innovation, he says, due to an emphasis on IIR and return on investments, results in poor business structure. Companies such as Dell have now outsourced nearly all aspects of design and production. As a result, they've lost a lot of their creative talent capability. This is what even the professor is right or wrong. Let's continue. If ROI, this number places emphasis on making as much money while investing in fewer assets as possible, just like things like Ola, Uber, and so on. Innovation, however, often requires large inputs of assets. That's what he says. Continuing, these measures are short-sighted, do not consider long-term cost of losing knowledge and innovation capacity. And you're probably seeing that in many of the new IPOs around the world where people are not actually looking at things. So we need to be careful. So this is very, very important. These measures are not for short-sightedness, do not consider long-term of losing knowledge and innovation capability. So this is very important to understand. So the question from his research comes to this. Even he's right, when companies are becoming less innovative, is it really business school's fault? It goes deeper than being what is taught in class. It is a problem with corporate culture, is it? We must encourage companies to shift away from short-term profits to focus on innovation. So, continuing with the questions, companies should goals, provide goods, not jobs. If a company can deliver better products more cheaply to customers, they should do so. Should focus on long-term capability. However, outsourcing knowledge base is always dangerous. And then we talk about open business functions by focusing on making money. National development is not their priority. So businesses are looking at making money. So those are some of the questions. So moving forward, companies such as Apple that focus on innovation are excelling. Apple has outperformed vast majority of stocks over the last several years. Companies should focus on long-term profit. They should emphasize knowledge, creativity, and you see governments are running after knowledge, creativity, innovation, entrepreneurship, because these will create new wealth, new jobs, improve social activities. And that's why we need to encourage companies to focus on long-term profits, generating new innovations. Okay, building the ecosystem. How do we get more innovation into the system? We need to have government funds. Government has to help to build the capacity, universities to do R&D, built-in industry, will then apply these technologies to convert them. We need to also look at public policies. Companies are moving away from basic research because basic research costs money. So you need to have applied research. So this is where academic institutions can play a role. They can help in companies doing research. Universities and companies will need to move in, and industry must then commercialize with a business model so the institutions can generate the IP, give it to the companies, and the companies can then generate income. In turn, they can return in the form of grants for university to further enhance their research and come out with better and better innovation. Universities need to be funded by government, as we know. Universities will always need to publish papers because the basic essence of an academic institution is to share knowledge. And that is done through papers, publications, conferences. So that has to continue to happen while innovation plays a major role in many of today's work. Government needs to increase education and skill sets. We keep talking about just like Skill India, where they try at different levels to help different types of people to get new skills. Government needs to provide infrastructure because infrastructure costs are usually sunk costs and they take a long, long time for return. So who can afford to do this? Government will have to help. Government needs to build accelerators more so to help inculcate startups to do innovation. Now, return on investment on your investment on in, innovation is also a very important coefficient to see whether it works for you, both for successful implementation of projects and also for you to be able to grow your forecast for your business and cost saving is made. If you take a look at BlackBerry, this slide was done before they actually started losing their money. BlackBerry was one of the first companies to launch a true smartphone. It dominated the market in the early years. It targeted business first and then encouraged the BlackBerry to spread to other markets. Between June 2008, the share dropped from 140 US dollars to $9. Their global market share in 2009 was 19%. In 2 years, they dropped to 11%. Could argue that the lack of innovation was the key. The company set in its way didn't adapt to Apple or Android. So at that time when we were doing this, we had said it could be argued that its lack of emphasis on innovation was key. BlackBerry stopped responding to the fast-changing needs of consumers and the market. The operating system became outdated while everybody else's hardware caught up. So BlackBerry started to lose. Moving forward, some innovative thoughts. So what we had said at that time, when BlackBerry was starting to lose money, they could have, you can see when we said Windows 8, that's when this slide was first made. And that time BlackBerry was still pretty popular. It should partner with somebody like Microsoft to push Windows 8. Could build a modified Android OS tailored for business. Could focus on building mobile application to be a solid across platforms. Could partner with computer manufacturers such as Lenovo to build special packages, syncing, and etc. It was difficult to sync Apple as well, your BlackBerry as well. It needed special software. Now, these are some of the reasons BlackBerry was struggling to survive. And if you take a look at Apple, in 1997, when Jobs returned to Apple, today it is the most valuable company. It was almost going to be bankrupt. The product line focused on computers and accessories. The company had lost most of its market share to Microsoft. This was the state of Apple in 1997. And how did they rebound? Jobs brought back a focus on style. He changed the new operating system that was both stable and easy to use. Apple began to move into the consumer electronics. They brought in iPod, would become a huge success. Why? It was a tiny little, it was the size of a credit card, and it was able to take thousands of music, and each of these songs were not as low as 99 cents. That is an enormous success. I mean, iPod has moved on today because almost every other device can do it, but that took them into the market because that made people really comfortable. Now, Android, just as BlackBerry was peaking in 2008, Google launched an Android system, free operating system available to all phone hardware operators. It positioned itself to make money on its app store and with advertisement. It was not worried about the operating system. So, change in business model, innovation. So, they focused on software and hardware developers to bring in on developing high quality hardware, has emerged as the world's largest smartphone operator in the world, holding probably more than 43% of the global market today. The slides might be a little outdated. Now, analyzing it, RIM found a winning formula, but at the times changed. They did not adapt. A consumer wants and needs change. RIM failed to react because we all use our phone not only for business. We play games, we watch TV, we watch movies, we listen to songs. We did a whole lot of things on it. So people wanted one device which they could use for everything. And that's something BlackBerry was not very good. It was not able to do many of the third-party applications, so which Android was able to do. Apple suffered years of losses, but is able to use innovation to rebound. Apple reconcept what products mean to customer, a very, very important activity. Now, Android used both innovative software and innovative business model to gain the market share. It allowed Google to enter and dominate the whole new market. These are quick analysis. A quick look at my own company, one of the companies that I managed for the last more than a decade. What can we do? Should we focus? Should we focus on bottom line? Should we focus on innovation? Of course, the best option is to balance on both. Now, let's just take a look at it. If you focus on bottom line, if you're small and you have no funds, fast moving and changing products, then you need to focus on your bottom line. Now, focus on innovation, we are big and have funds, and slow moving and changing products. But as I said, the ideal solution is for us to balance. So, what happens to most companies? They end up focusing on the bottom line and forgetting about innovation. So, this is something we need to study well. Now, innovation related bottom lines. How would you know this? You need to look at the revenue generated from new products, how much it's increased in the new market, and how has it delayed operational costs in saving and revenue obtained from introduction of new products. This will tell you whether your innovation is related to your bottom line or not. If none of these change, then your bottom line doesn't change, which means your innovation hasn't helped your bottom line. So this is something you want to look at. Other things you want to look at: revenue received from sales of new products as compared to total revenue for last several years. So you can see the change of products. Did they help you make anything better? Change in the relative market value of your company, just like Apple today is valued, as most valuable company in the world. So something that would help you. Number of new products, services, and businesses. Number of innovative ideas you've come out with. Ratios between the total number of innovation ideas and number implemented. So you could have come out of the 100, and how many did you implement? If you only implement 2% success rates, you might have spent a whole lot of money and not got enough returns. So you need to think about this. Next, the time spent between submission of an innovation into starting into a product. So that's important again. And the number of customers have considered your company after you came up with this, and you need to look at your index. Now, here are 5 most commonly mistaken in development of innovation measurement systems. Too many indicators, and it's looked at like a project management. So you got to look at it a little bit more different. And innovation index are not integral in the performance, and focusing on cost saving, focusing on past events. These are all deadly mistakes when you evaluate your innovation. So be cautious. The power startups bring, they are agile, they're flexible compared to large companies. They can do what they like quickly. Unlike large organizations, they have to get many levels of approval. So that's very, very important. They can quick and reiterate and pivot with change in dynamic environment. Working with startups also allows a corporate not to have to repivot an entire business. So it helps them as well. So the opportunities startups have an opportunity, larger organizations have, is collaborating with each other. The larger organization probably has a market set already, and the new company can focus on the product startups and take that to a bigger player who can then take you to market. So we should never look at a larger organization as a competitor and a startup as a competitor. They could help each other succeed. Power to deploy by a startup is faster and easier. And tech has gone big in this um, quarantine economy. It has helped tremendously. All video softwares have gone out of pricing. Mobile networks have gone over, and so much money has been put into all this during the quarantine economy. And corporates might have to share the attitude: you benefit, I lose, and we share, we both win, to provide superior experience to the customer. So this is very, very important and crucial for you to do. Now, here, innovation. We had said earlier, it is irresistible, it's irritating, it's interesting, and businesses need it. So this is something you want to keep as a takeaway. And then here, let's look at some products, how they failed and how they did well. We look at an initial idea, plus a willingness to engage in a different world, plus customers who are willing to buy your idea. These are innovation. Now, if you take a look at this, the Motorola phone on the left-hand side is an invention, and the Apple phone on the right-hand side is an innovation. So today, who's there? The guy on the right-hand side is there. So very important. We talk about electric vehicles. You look at that. Electric vehicles were there years and years ago, but nothing had happened. That was invention. And then another invention is there in the middle, and Uber is a innovation. They didn't invent anything. They just changed the business model. So there you are. Now here again, invention, innovation. On the right-hand side, it's an invention of the microprocessor. On the left-hand side, it's a computer, which is innovation, which creates value. The processor itself doesn't create any value. It needs all the other components to create that value called innovation. So that's very important. Now, here you ask a question, innovation or invention? Facebook, the world, the World Wide Web. So World Wide Web was an invention. Innovation was Facebook. Take a look at these. The trendy glasses started with, on one side is invention on the right-hand side, and it looks innovative on the other side. So it is what goes out there and does anything. Here, look at Nokia. What went wrong with Nokia? Look at all the beautiful sets of phones they had. Nokia, company funded in Finland, was the first to create a cellular network. In the late 1990s and early 200s, Nokia was a global leader in mobile phones. With the arrival of internet, other mobile companies started understanding how data, not voice, was the future of communication, and they let Apple run away. Now, what happened to Nokia is no secret. Apple and Android crushed them. Nokia didn't grasp the concept of software, and they were focusing on hardware and managing fear to elevate current users if they changed too much. Nokia missed was the fact that they didn't want to lead the drastic change in user experience. This caused Nokia to develop a mess of an operating system with bad user experience that just wasn't a fit to market. The company overestimated the strength of its brand and believed they would arrive late in the smartphone game and succeed. In 2007, Steve Jobs had launched the iPhone, a phone without keyboard, which was revolutionary at that time, and Nokia was just watching. And what happened? Unable to translate all the research spending into product that people actually want to buy. Predominant engineering focused and needed more market savvy. Developed processes was long dominated by hardware engineers, and software experts were marginalized, overestimate the strength of its brand. The high-tech era has taught people to accept constant innovation where companies fail behind. Consumers are quick to punish them. Now, the biggest communication problem is that we don't listen to communicate, we to understand, we listen to reply. So it's very important for you startups, innovators out there to listen, look for problems, and then look for solutions. Don't attempt to fit your solutions into problems which may not even exist. So that's why it's absolutely crucial for you to discover a problem and then look for a solution. What is next? You identify a key takeaway from my lecture. How does it relate to you? And share it with your colleagues and friends. Now, this is how you contact me. I reply to all my emails without fail. My telephone number is there. I have some books along with the co-author of mine in some of the books. In Amazon, if you key in my name, they will come up. And I have a YouTube channel, not so active these days, but still there's some good videos there. So with that, I will stop my lecture and I will open for conversation with you. I'd be happy to take as many questions as you like. And I have no, no issues in taking as many questions as I can. So let's try and do what we can do. Uh, I'm making you back host, Shashwat, so you can let people in, I guess.
Sure, sir.
Yeah. So please shoot away with your questions. I'm happy to respond to them.
So the participants, dice is open to you. You can either write your questions in question and answer section or below in the chat, or you can raise your hand. I will unmute you.
Shashwat, can you try to get my video on by saying open video?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm doing.
While we wait for some questions, no one is asking, all having a nice holiday.
There is one raised hand. Meanwhile, I'm allowing Mr. Jagbir.
Yes, please go ahead and shoot away. Jasbir. Maybe Jasbir just lifted his hand and left.
Mr. Jagbir, your talking is permitted. You can unmute yourself. Yeah, he is unmuted, but you are not audible to us, sir.
Okay, while we fix that, there's a question on the screen, which I will take. How can universities play their role in promoting innovation? Can you throw some lights in? Okay, how can universities play a role? You should encourage your students to come up with ideas, but most places are very focused on just doing their exams. So some places they have an afternoon where students are allowed to do their own things. They can build stuff, they can play around. In the olden days, when we were growing up, we used to have radio clubs where we used to make little radios, electronic clubs, they would call them then. We make little radios, and when the radio worked, you got really excited. Like it wasn't like a big thing, but at that stage, for a kid, it was a big thing. So like that, you need to start innovation clubs within your university, encourage your students, the professors, and especially the faculty, they should be focused on allowing and participating with the children how to go for innovation and not just focus with academic excellence. Often people who get hundreds of marks don't come out to be very innovative. So we have to draw a line between the two. So I hope that helps you. Certainly, it's all about ecosystem. You need to help people with the ecosystem. Otherwise, it never works. Now, someone has asked a question. When we are planning to develop assistive technology for disabled people, how to convince the marketing for the product? We always get the question, it doesn't have any commercial value. See, whatever products I have said that in my last slide, you should be solving a problem, not fitting your solution into a problem. The best way to do this sort of activity is to work with NGOs who focus in this sort of areas. They will then fund it for you. They will pay for it. If you take the cane, the smart cane which came out of IIT Delhi is sold over 1 million pieces today, but it's all sold not to the user. It is sold to associations and so on who take it to market. They actually pay for it and fund the project. So sometimes somebody might have a birthday party, a 100th birthday. They might buy 100 of these and donate. So you need to look for a business model which works. Because the people who need this, just like the gentleman who formed Jaipur Food, a fantastic human being, he spoke to me some time back when we were talking about innovation in India, and he's covered worldwide. He told me he doesn't take any money. I said, then how do you survive? He says, I raise money. He needs over two. He says, I need over 2 crores this year. I'll raise it somehow. And what he told me, the people who need a Jaipur food already lost a lot of their feelings in life. He cannot be taking money from them. He has to give them that tool to bring the dignity back to life so they can actually work. And I thought that was amazing. The man had actually said it, hit it right. Somebody who's in need, we can't go and ask them to pay. They probably can't afford to pay. So that is why he came up. And not many people know his story. He actually was a government officer, very senior government official, and he had an accident and he was lying in the hospital when he thought of this in an ICU, where he was very critical and he thought of this and came out and done. And he spoke to me for almost 2 hours on the phone. He didn't know who I was. I just called up to find out what they're doing. And he was amazing character. He really, he must have been in his 80s now, but he was absolutely amazing. And what he told me, and he hit it in the point, exactly what you're asking. As it is to those people don't have money to pay, you're correct, right? So you need to identify a business model, look for associations who work with blind, people who work with deaf and dumb, so forth. So that's something you want to work on. What is the key component of innovation at working place for a startup to raise? I don't think there's a key component as such. There are multiple components you need to work to make innovation happen at a workplace. First of all, everybody must have the will to become innovative. If they don't care, nothing is going to start. That's something very important. Startups are a lot of our startups are just doing Me Too stuff. So when they do Me Too stuff, they're not able to get there. So you need to be wide companies from the West tend to do much better because they are not into me to me stuff. They come up with a lot of their own activity. We look at the neighbor doing well, we try to be like him. So end of the day, there's 10 people selling the same pan in the same street. So all of us die. The one pawn shop was doing well, two comes, three comes, four comes. So innovation cannot be like that. You can't be copying them. You got to create value to keep the system going. So I think the most important component for innovation is to find and create value. I hope that helps. And I think Jabir cannot ask us any, I think he cannot communicate. So I think there's a problem there. So let me, if everyone can put it in the question box, it'd be easier for me because the questions in the question box and chat box, I'm not with my eyesight, I'm not able to monitor both. How is innovation irritating factor? Because people keep talking about, I'm innovative, and they're probably not innovative at all. So I just created that template saying it's irritating because every place you go, even you sit in a restaurant, you look at the menu, it says innovative menu. What have they done? They put a few colors in it. So it is important for us. I just stated that I, in innovation, can be irritating. And I didn't, please don't get me wrong, not that innovation is irritating. The I in innovation can turn us into irritation. Okay, so that's that. Let me get to the question sheets here. The market nowadays changes fast. Sometimes we are developing some products, but the market needs change without the product even being in market. How to keep with the strike balance? What $1 million question. If I can tell you the solution to this, I won't be sitting here at 7 o'clock in the evening teaching you. I'd be sitting down in somewhere in a nice place having a holiday and not even bothered about online. Okay, in most serious fact, that is a state fact of life. So we need to be on top of things. You won't believe it. In your own place, you will be finding people are working on the same thing. Forget about going outside your own college or your own company. You need to find out what's happening within your company. So many companies started making a database saying, tell me your skill sets. What are you doing? How are you doing this? What are the things you do? What are the things you're good at? And they try to put everything together so people can share. So it's very important for you to keep up, subscribe to a few blogs, few newspapers, and just read and find out what's happening. And today it's easy. It's not very difficult to do these things. But yes, technology is changing fast. We have no choice. So it's no point hiding anything. You start running as faster as you can. How to find a good team, like-minded people? Another great question. You start talking to people, attend events like this. Unfortunately, with this COVID, we are online, so we don't have personal interaction with people. So in most places like Thai, Rotary clubs, Lions Club, all these clubs are very useful for people like you, entrepreneurs, where you meet other entrepreneurs, you meet other people, you can talk to them, ask them what they're interested. You can talk about interests, have a cup of coffee. And this is where Silicon Valley does extremely well. People meet up in random places, talking to each other and learning from one another. So you need to attend functions like these to learn from each other what can be done and cannot be done. So it's important that you try and attend, functions and so on. Finally got my video working. Thank you, Shashwat. So that's important for you to ensure that you attend functions. Look out on your old classmates, see whether they can help you. That again is another useful place to go. So universities are a good place to find partners, like-minded people. Clubs are good places. Even social outings are very important. So it's all, and we come from a country where we do a lot of very good matchmaking. So that's what you need to do. Force a partnership with somebody and hope for the best. Okay, now it shows 3 questions, but I'm not able to see them. Oh, let me just see. I think I have answered this. I have answered this. How to find a good team? I've answered that. Is there any role for education and innovation? Are they related in any way? Of course, education is innovative. Like today, we have gone online. We are trying to make how well we can do things online. Of course, you need to be innovative to keep on making education happen, because today's kids learn so many things from the internet. They don't even need to go to school. This morning, where I was chairing a session for telemedicine with a whole lot of doctors, and engineers and innovators this morning for the Tamil Nadu chapter, where I was the chair in one conversation, and the neurosurgeon of 40 years of experience said, today, it's not like when he became a neurosurgeon 40 years ago, because Professor Google and Professor Facebook and Professor LinkedIn and Professor everybody else comes along with the patient to meet you, and the patient knows as much as you. So you need to be able to do different things, not about the solution, but have empathy to help them. So this is where a role of the doctor is important. It is not the unit, it's not about the tools they use, it's also that those days they used to call them bedside manners. Today that's lacking in many of us, mannerisms and so on. So these are some of the things we discuss. So it's important for us to adapt, to learn as we go through that. So it's, of course, education has to change. We cannot be using syllabus we taught engineers 40 years ago, where children are bored and they don't even use it when they go out. So all these things is very, very important. You must do. Okay, how reduce the chances of failure? How to reduce the chances of failure in innovation? I assume that's what you're asking. Before you start anything, you can do a program called customer discovery, where you talk to 50 to 100 people who are potential customers to the product or solution you're trying to create, invent, make, whatever, and find out out of the 100 people you speak to, how many are interested. If a high number are interested, the failure rate will be low, but there's no guarantee. So that's one way to find out from your users. Like MBA, do we need masters in entrepreneurship to be a good entrepreneur? I don't think that is a question easy to answer. I don't think we need an MBA to be the best businessman in the world. So similarly, an MBA in entrepreneurship is probably not necessary. But today, the MBA in entrepreneurship has changed. These are very specific MBAs. What they tell you is come join for 2 years. End of 2 years, you produce a company which is making revenue and you get an MBA. So most people have started this. So places like even IIT Madras offer startups this sort of model. They can bring their startup and write that as a thesis, and they would actually use that business plan for the submission of their master's program in science in entrepreneurship. Uh, IIT was much, much ahead. They actually started this 20 years ago, but they did not get too many students at that time, and they tried it again. They kept it going, and they have now relaunched it this year. And now, with the current climate, they should be able to get lots and lots of students. Meaning, is entrepreneurship education needed? Of course, we do. We can't. I mean, how do we read a financial sheet? Somebody has to teach us. So you don't have to do a master's. You can attend little courses to learn how to make a business plan, how to buy, how to sell. Most entrepreneurs don't know how to do pricing. This doesn't come from the sky. You need to learn. You need their methodologies, the cost going out, the unknown cost, the hidden cost, all that needs to be looked at. So a course, for example, in pricing would be of great help to entrepreneurs to learn how to do pricing, how to write a business plan, how to raise money. Raising money is both art and science. So you need to have some bit of science and some art. So yes, absolutely, entrepreneurship education is absolutely crucial, but you don't need to go and get a master's in it. You can do it as a, a subject, an extra elective in most, maybe to all students, because you don't have to be entrepreneur, but you should be entrepreneurial. Otherwise, you are no use to the company. So that's very, very important. How to make financial collaboration for a new innovation? Some pros. I don't understand that question. What does that mean? I'm not sure with a clarification of what financial collaboration means. While while you clarify that for me, I will just if there's any hands up, we can take them as well, because it's do you believe Indian education needs strong reforms? This is a very political question. I think you should address it to the minister, whether he believes or not. Of course, there's always opportunity to make things better.
So, Mr. Jagbir, I have unmuted you. You can unmute your mouse, this mic, and speak up.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Please go for it.
Sir, actually, I already asked this question. I asked how new innovation is irritating. Some factors there, I think so, sir.
Uh,
That's why you are already given this answer, sir. I'm satisfied for this.
Mr. Jagbir,
okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
No problem. No problem. Thank you. How to perform market research? You can do market research using the internet, put in the product in there, find out what is the market size, who are the people using it. So it is not difficult to do market research. You can use the library, you can use online journals, you can use a whole lot of online tools to get your market research done.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
No, you're welcome.
I think actually, sir, we have taken up that question, and Mr. Jagbir earlier asked that how innovation could be irritating. So you have
Yeah.
already answered it.
Okay.
How it could be irritating.
No problem.
Yeah.
As long as I've answered it, he shouldn't be irritated that I didn't answer it.
That's why
Okay.
I'm mentioning that you have already answered it that time.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much. There's one more question on the screen. Let me see. Sometimes we have to choose between education and innovation, which is really disheartening, but true. What do we do? It depends on you. I can't give you an answer on this. It would be that's forcing my view on you. It has to be you have to decide whether which is which. But I don't understand why do we need to take a separation between education and innovation? They they are primarily interrelated, right? Without education, it will be very difficult to make innovation. Without innovation, it will be very difficult to make educated people. So let's not separate them. Let's take them hand in hand and see how we can solve that. Okay. Any other questions? We still have another 5 to 8 minutes. I am happy to continue taking them. I have no problems.
Participants, please feel free to ask.
And if you want to connect with me, I have already shared my emails. And if you Google my name, you will find me. You find me easily.
So I think if no questions are, so we will conclude our session today. And if
Okay.
there are some questions, I will direct it back to you.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak to all of you, and thank you for your participation. It was a very nice crowd. We actually spent over 25 minutes just taking questions, which is very uncommon in these parts of the world. So thank you so much, and I really appreciate that. Thank you very, very much. It made my life easier because I've had a very, very long day, and we've had all these floods in Chennai, and it's been miserable last week, 10 days, and I also was not feeling up to it. But thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
We are
Thank
highly indebted to you because of so many adversities. You are taking up the sessions, and your team has also turned up last week. And there were the power cuts and other things, but the team defied everything. And all the 4 starters from STIC Center, they turned up. Your team, Samudra and Gayatri, they were there coordinating well.
I didn't make them come today because they've had very long weeks ahead, and things are not too good today, and the rain has just stopped, so I thought I'd leave them alone. I didn't tell them I'm speaking today.
Thank you so much, sir. On behalf of IEEE UP section and ACIC Mighty Merit Foundation.
Thank you. It's a pleasure always working with you, Shashwat. Take care, my
Thank you so
friend.
much, sir.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye.